Hello and welcome to the Inspiring Life School podcast. This is your host, Vidakovic, and on this podcast, I'll be sharing with you the most valuable strategies to live your one wildly beautiful and most precious life. Because this is it, my friend. In case you haven't guessed, when it comes to life, there's no rewind or pause button that exists. They say that the way that you spend your days is the way that you spend your life. So my one and only goal here is to help you stop wasting your time, stop holding yourself back in life, stop experiencing non-stop negative mind chatter, stop just dreaming without doing, and start living life fearlessly instead, with more purpose, focus, and intention. I sincerely want you to live life in a way that when you come to the end of it, you know deep down in your heart that you 100% gave it your all, flaws and all. This podcast is not about doing life perfectly. Instead, it is about experiencing and living life with more clarity and courage and truly appreciating this precious adventure that we are so blessed to be on. So if you're with me here today, it's time to stop spinning in circles, get off the hamster wheel for good, put your hands back on the steering wheel of your life, and finally start living life in a way that you won't later regret. With that being said, let's dive on in. Hello and welcome to the Inspiring Life School podcast. I'm your host, Vidakovic, and in this episode today, we're going to be chatting about how you see the world and the power of your perception. So this episode is specifically titled, How You See the World is Different from How Others See the World. And the reason I'm recording this episode is because I realize now that I shared with you a really interesting update about myself in the last episode. So more specifically, I was talking about how winter has come really early this year to Sydney. And there I was sitting and recording this particular episode and I was all rugged up. And only later did I realize how ridiculous this must have sounded, because what I considered to be a cooler morning, and I think it was approximately 16 degrees Celsius or 61 degrees Fahrenheit, ended up being this 22-degree day for us here in Sydney. So that's 72 degrees Fahrenheit for those who use that measure. Just reminded me how everything is really relative in this world. For someone who is living in a cooler nation, even our low, that low I was experiencing, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm so freezing. It was 16 degrees. So what was that? 61 degrees Fahrenheit. That could be considered to be a really warm and beautiful day. And there I was rugged up in this warm winter coat and fluffy socks. So I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge my own spoilt circumstances here in Sydney, where the weather's actually almost beautiful for a greater part of the year, I would say. 8 months of the year, it's always beautiful. And it's definitely warped my sense of what I consider to be cold and how other people might not agree with me. But everything really does come down to perception. So this is what I want to talk about today. As Friedrich Nietzsche so wisely said, all things are subject to interpretation. Whichever interpretation prevails at a given time is a function of power and not the truth. And then we had Marcus Aurelius, who said, everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. And then finally, there's just one more quote by Carl Jung, who said, it all depends on how we look at things and not how things are in themselves. Now, I've spoken a lot about how your thoughts determine your feelings, which impact your actions and results on this podcast. And I teach in depth exactly how to implement these teachings to radically change your results in your life inside my Managing Your Mind master course. So I don't want to approach this topic of perception from that angle today. Instead, I want to press upon you this concept, or maybe a revelation to you. It might not be something that you've actually considered before, but everyone in this world has a different lens. So oftentimes we look around at our family and our friends and we think are they actually blind? How are they not seeing what I'm seeing? Isn't it obvious? What is wrong with these people? And if you've ever thought this, don't worry, you're not alone. This is totally normal, because sometimes we really do lack the perspective to truly grasp that our perception, our own perception of things, depends on our own personal experiences, and other people are going to have their own different personal experiences, and therefore a different lens through which they're filtering all the information which they're receiving in the world. So if someone from Antarctica was to come to Sydney on the day that I was complaining about the cold weather, they would have looked at me and thought, is this woman actually crazy? She's got this coat and her socks on. What's she going on about? The sun is shining. There's no wind to speak of. And instead of walking around in a coat, they'd probably most likely be walking around in a t-shirt and shorts, maybe a dress. And they would be relishing this heat in the most appreciative way ever. Because it always comes down to your perception. And what you think is right or true can often be wrong and untrue to others in this world. And if you're sitting there listening to me and you're insisting, no, but I've got proof. I've got proof to back me up. I've got evidence. Look, I found all this evidence on the internet. Guess what? Someone else can go ahead and find their own evidence to support their own theory on the internet. Okay, there's millions of pages on the internet, because we're always going to find what we're looking for and we're going to ignore the rest. So this episode is simply about opening your eyes to the fact that we really do all see this world through a different lens, And all the other people in the world have a different lens from us. Now, that's not to say that our lens is right or wrong. It just is. It's just something that you have. Now, you might find that you're probably attracted to people who have a similar perspective to you, which in some way confirms to you this idea that your stance might be the right one because you're spending time with people who agree and think like you. So you might find this is evident in your religious views, maybe political views, the way you raise your children, the way you educate your children, the way that you're feeling your body and moving your body, and what you choose to focus your time on. And this is because like attracts like, and also relates back to the confirmation bias, which is people's tendency to process information they're looking for or interpret information that is consistent with their existing beliefs. But I want you just to be open to this idea that people have a different lens from you. You aren't right and they aren't wrong. Even if you could preach to the high heavens that your way is the best way, just be open to accepting that other people might think at the same time that their way is the best way and agree to disagree instead. Remember, everyone in this world grew up in a different home from you, with different parents, and even those who grew up in the same home as you, like such as your siblings, still have a different lens from you because their experiences would have been different. Like you could have grown up in the same home and had the same parents, but our memories from the past are always going to differ. And this is because the lens through which we view life is as different as our individual and unique personalities. So in case you've ever wondered, like how in the world do two parents raise like different kids with such different personalities? Here's the reason why. The mum and dad that a firstborn child experiences, and for the record, I'm a firstborn child, is a completely different set of parents from the ones that later children experience. Like first-time mums and dads worry more. They find it harder to let go of those reins. But with time, they change. They get older, they get wiser, and then they consequently parent in a slightly different way, or maybe even a radically different way. This is normal. Like with time, we all change and grow. So add to this mix, like the unique personality of each child, and this is going to change the way that each parent interacts with each of their individual kids. So the way that your mum and dad interacted with you is going to be different or slightly different from the way they interacted with your siblings, like whether it's intentional or not. And then when you add further to this mix, your different experiences outside the home, different peer groups, different teachers, different friends, different interests, this just helps further mold the different personalities that we grow up with as we get older and the different lens that we have. That's why you should never compare your kids. Like they're different because they're supposed to be different. They might live in the same home together and they might have the same set of parents if they do, but their experience of your home is going to be different from your one and their siblings. And the experience of you as their parent will be different too. So I know I've gone off on a tangent here, but let's just bring the topic back to the one at hand, which is speaking about the perception and understanding that there are close to 8 billion different lenses walking around this world right now, and that everyone thinks that their lens is true and right and best for them. So that is our prerogative. We have a choice. Like we can just think it is, yes, true and right and best for us. And it isn't our job to try to preach and try to convince others that no, like they're wrong or we're right. Like take on my lens, like my lens is better. Let's just try to show some compassion and acceptance. I can promise you, like I truly believe that it's totally okay if you think differently from me. In fact, I'd be totally shocked if you didn't think differently from me because you're an individual with different thoughts and you would have definitely had different experiences. So why wouldn't you see life through a different lens too? Now, that's not to say that we have to love other people's way of approaching life. You can love and hate whatever you want. Did you know? You can strongly disagree with some people's opinions and strongly embrace others. But it isn't our job to educate the world on the greatness of living life according to, and you can insert your name here if you like. Maybe your way of living life and your lens isn't great for other people. Like I like reading. I love reading. Other people think it's boring and that isn't how they want to spend their free time. Some people want to go out and work corporate jobs. Other people want to stay home and take care of their kids. Some people want to be polygamous. Other people want to be monogamous. Other people never want to get married at all. Some parents want to homeschool. Other people would prefer to send their kids to a Catholic school like I did. Some people want to travel the world, never get married, never have kids, and that defines a happy life for them. But good on them. Your life, your choices. And we all get to focus on our life and our choices. And these personal decisions are going to be impacted obviously by the lens that we have. Now, obviously there are laws in place to make sure people aren't hurting other people with their choices. So I'm never advocating, or I'm not advocating that you sit back and watch other people intentionally hurt you and the people that you love. As humans, we have the power to set really clear boundaries in our life. We get to decide who stays inside our inner circle, our little bubble of life, and who doesn't. So of course, it's important for you to intentionally keep your energy really strong and protected and surround yourself with things and people and structures that you love and that help you create a life for yourself that makes your soul feel at peace. But everyone else has the right to do the same for themselves, because at our very core, and I say this is true for every human walking around this world with their different lens, humans just want to be seen, appreciated, and understood. And so how can you do this with more compassion and ease, knowing that we have a different lens from them all? I think it's just this fact. Just knowing that they have a different lens from you and accepting that this could be true is enough. That is enough. Okay, we're all just different. No one's right and wrong. We all just have a different lens. And that's it for today's episode, my friend. I love and appreciate you all. Take care, and I will catch you on the next one. Much love from me. Thank you so much for listening to the Inspiring Life School podcast. I really appreciate you allowing me to be a part of your life. If you'd love to stay in touch, please know that you can always find me on Instagram at Vidakovic, or you can visit my website, inspiringmumlife.com, where you can sign up and receive so many amazing freebies that I've created just for you to help you implement all my teachings into practice. There you'll also find all my online courses, resources and programs that I've created to help you up-level your life in seriously the simplest way possible, so that you can ultimately create for yourself a life that feels simpler, lighter, and allows you to show up in a way that you love as your best and most authentic version of yourself. Now remember, this podcast is all about not just dreaming but also doing, because to create true sustainable change in your life, you need to be willing to do things differently. And that's what I'm here to support you to do every single step along the way, so that you too can begin to live your one wild and precious life with less stress, less overwhelm, less drama, and instead with zero regrets. Finally, if this podcast resonates with you at all and you appreciate the content, I would absolutely love for you to show your support by leaving me a review on Apple Podcasts. I'm on a mission to help more people wake up to the preciousness of life and to help them live their days with more intention and purpose, and your review will help make this goal of mine possible. Well, once again, thank you so much. I have loved spending this time with you, and I look forward to connecting with you again. I am Vidakovic, and you have been listening to the Inspiring Life School podcast.